Hi everybody, I'm Steve Grizzetti. I'm not a professional chef, but I am Italian, and I want to show you how to make the best pizza you can possibly make at home. This is a pizza that combines the best elements of old world Italian style pizza, Chicago style, New York style, and all of it aiming toward my goal of creating a pizza that's equivalent to my favorite pizza in the world, Coach House in Worcester, Ohio. Now the first step in making a good pizza, of course, is making a good crust. We start with a cup of water. I've had this water in the microwave for about 30 seconds. It's very warm, but it's not hot. Don't want to kill the bacteria in the yeast. To that, I'm adding yeast, then 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt. We'll give it a quick stir, and then we'll just let that rest for a second. We're letting the yeast activate when we do that. Now for the flour itself, I'm using 2 cups of bread flour. You can probably get away with some enriched white flour, but I much prefer bread flour. It gives it more of a bready texture. And to that, I'm adding my secret ingredient, 1/2 cup of cornmeal. Now cornmeal is what's going to give it that Chicago crunch. We'll stir the dry ingredients together. Then we're going to mix the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients. Put it out on the breadboard and give it a quick kneading. Just about 5 minutes, just long enough so that it's got a nice doughy texture here, a nice velvety texture. Now once that's done, we put it back in the bowl. I'm going to put some saran wrap or some press and seal over the top and stick it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Now putting it in the refrigerator doesn't stop the dough from rising. It's going to rise because the yeast is activated, but putting it in the refrigerator is going to slow that rise just a little bit, and above all, it's going to affect the texture of the dough itself. The dough's not going to be all rubbery. It's not going to snap back when we roll it out. It's going to lay out just really nice. We'll be able to get a nice crust out of it. So stick it in the refrigerator for just a couple of hours, and then we'll check back in. Okay, now that our dough has had a couple of hours to rise, let's take it out. We're going to lay out our dough. Before we do, we want to do 2 things. One is we want to preheat our oven to 500 degrees. Crank that puppy up just as high as you can. That's just about as high as a conventional oven can get. Just leave it at 500 degrees. We'll want to do that for at least half an hour before we even think about putting a pizza in the oven. We want that to be as hot as we can possibly get it. The second thing I want to do is get out all of my ingredients. Every single thing I'm going to put on my pizza, my cheese, my sauce, my toppings, whatever I'm going to put on there, I want to get them out of the refrigerator. I want them to be at least room temperature before I put them on the pizza. You put cold cheese on a pizza and stick it in the oven, you're just not going to get the melt you want. Now I'm using a conventional pizza pan. This is one that's perforated. It lets the heat up through it. So I'm just taking that pan and putting a thin layer of olive oil on it. Then I spread out my dough and put my dough on my pan. Now I want to bake my dough with nothing on it for just a couple of minutes. That's called par baking. It's going to help the dough set up just a little bit. But before I stick it in the oven, 2 things I'm going to do. One is I'm going to take a fork. I'm just going to kind of dance it over the dough, putting little holes in there. Those little perforations in the dough are just going to let the dough breathe, sort of like the holes in a soda cracker. That way the dough is going to be a lot crispier when it comes out of the oven. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the oven down to 450 degrees. The oven is still plenty hot. I'm just going to turn it down so we don't get any direct heat on the pizza, all right? We're just going to get the residual heat from that 500 degrees we've been stoking in the oven here. And then we put the dough in the oven for just about 5 minutes. We just want it to set up and par bake a little. And here's the dough coming out of the oven. You notice it's set up very nicely. In fact, I could probably even lift it right up off my pizza pan. That's very good. Now my sauce. I'm using 8 ounces of tomato sauce. You can use pretty much any sauce. I don't recommend using factory pizza sauce out of a can. It's crap. Don't do it. I'm using Dave Fratelli, that's my favorite brand. I love the tomatoiness of it. You can get away with pretty much any even store brand tomato sauce for this. Spread it over our crust. And then I'm going to drizzle it with about 1.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Mix it right in there. That's going to give a buttery flavor to the sauce. And then on top of that, just a dusting of garlic powder. Now you can use minced garlic if you want, fresh garlic. Don't overdo the garlic. Garlic can kill a pizza, but the marriage of garlic and tomato sauce is awesome. Now never ever use factory pre-shredded cheese. They put an emulsifier on there to keep the cheese from glopping together. It's also going to mess up your melt. Do never put pre-shredded cheese on your pizza. You can shred it yourself. If you want to get a block of cheese and put it in a food processor, that's just fine. But I like to use just slices of cheese. Now you notice what I'm using. This is just Sargento cheese, just a quality name brand of cheese. Got a lot of flavor to it. You can pay up to $40 for a pound of cheese if you want, but I get great quality just using a name brand, major brand cheese. Now I'm putting slices of it on the pizza. This is my mozzarella, my bottom layer. On top of that, I'm using just about 1/8 of a cup here of Parmesan, just sprinkling it across the top. And then on top of that, a layer of provolone. Now there's about 8 ounces of cheese on the bottom layer, a sprinkling of the Parmesan in the middle, and then about 8 ounces of sliced provolone on top. Finally, I'm going to garnish my pizza with some dried basil. Now, if you're using fresh basil, don't put it on the pizza before you bake the pizza. Let the pizza bake, put fresh basil on it after it's done. Now, I pop the pizza in the oven. It's going to take just about 8 to 10 minutes for the pizza to cook. Halfway through, I give that pan just sort of a half a turn. I want to get a nice even browning over the top. Hey, you know how to get some of the best browning? Put your pizza on the top shelf of the oven, as close as you can to the top, up near the broiler. You're not going to have the broiler on or anything, but remember, when you see pizzas go into a conventional pizza oven in a pizza shop, they're using a not very tall, wide oven. You're simulating that by putting the pizza on the top rack of your oven. Now when it comes out, you want a nice even browning on the top. You don't just want to melt the cheese, you want to caramelize it. Look at that. That is a gorgeous caramelized pizza there. Now I'm going to take it off the pizza pan and put it on my wooden cutting board and let it set for about 5 minutes. You don't want to cut your pizza right away. You do that, the cheese is just going to run right off. So let it set just about 5 minutes, just for the cheese to set up, and then we'll cut it. Now look at that. That is a truly awesome looking slice of pizza. Let's give it a try.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Now if you want, of course, you can put all the toppings you want on a pizza. I recommend, though, never putting pepperoni on a pizza. Pepperoni kills a pizza. You want to get that pepperoni taste, I recommend taking some Genoa salami, dicing it up, and using that in place of your pepperoni. Put any other toppings you want on this, but work with my basic recipe and you are going to have a truly, truly awesome pizza. Thanks for joining me. Buon appetito. I'm Steve Grisetti.